So this is going to be the tier list of training equipment for climbing. So we have S tier, the best of the best, something that anyone can use and that anyone is going to get a good result from. A tier is pretty solid. Most people can use it, most people will find a benefit from it, but there might be something that's keeping it from S tier. Maybe that's because it's too hard, beginners can't do it, or pros will get nothing out of it. Then B tier, you barely made it inside, that's the B. Because anything below a B is not worth your money or your time. We all live pretty hectic lives, and spending time on something that's maybe a D is not worth it. Just climb more. We're gonna start with the pull-up bar. Now, the pull-up bar for me, well, it's pretty nostalgic. Probably the best investment of my life because it's the first equipment I actually bought. It was like 20 bucks and I hung it in my room and it took me from 0 pull-ups to 22 pull-ups in like 2 years. And that's what actually kicked off my physical development in like sports and stuff like that. Because before that, I would just do skateboarding and just other non-very mainstream sports, but nothing that would get me strong. It's not very climbing specific. I do think it's very good for a beginner that wants to get some pull-up power. Probably the person that can get the most out of this is female climbers that are very good at slab and kind of avoid doing pull-ups or just climbing on the overhang because they feel they don't have power. Usually those people have really strong crimps, but they don't have the back power. So I think this is a good entry-level equipment to train on, but it is a B because it's not very climbing specific. So you can pull, but you can't get much out of it besides that. Plus there's better versions of it. We're gonna talk about it. So B tier. After that we have, well, one of my favorite things, resistance bands. Why are these pieces of plastic so good? You can use them for mobility, rehabbing something, an old injury. You can use it for warming up. You can use it for strength training, even though one of the downsides is that since it doesn't have a specific weight and you can pull more or less, it's not very standardized. So I wouldn't recommend it for proper strength, but I would recommend it for what I do. Every single warm-up session, I use that to warm up my muscles. Plus, you can use it at pretty weird angles, which is good to like turn on your shoulders or like glutes when you want to open like for butterfly and stuff like that. So it's pretty good. I really like it. For me, it's an S tier. But it's mostly for warm-up and mobility. Don't think this is gonna suddenly make you climb like 9A or V12 or whatever, because it's not for that. It's for opening range of movement, and you can get a lot out of it. A lot more than most people give it credit. Plus, it's so cheap that, I mean, it's just worth it. Like you can have I have a bunch of them in my bag, and I always give them for free to other people just because they're so good. Then we have the golden standard, the hangboard. I have my things against hangboards, but it works. The truth is, if you just want to improve raw finger strength for crimps, it's probably one of the best things you have out there. So what is my problem with hangboards? I think it's very easy for a lot of people to just focus on finger strength. I think hangboards is a good tool, but it can be used wrong. The good thing is you can train a variety of grips, you can even do slopers, and since it's on wood, you don't lose much skin, which is great because we want to spend most of our time climbing and wasting skin on things that are important to us and learning movement and climbing on slopers, for example. But on the wood, you can protect your skin and just focus on raw strength. There are some caveats. At least in my house here in Japan, I can't hang it up here because the walls are made out of drywall and more like paper actually, but it just breaks down and you can't make holes. And I thought about getting one of those like fictitious like mounting system and stuff like that, but I think I can't even do that since they are so weak. I think it's not for everyone. It depends. I think it's a solid S tier because it does what it has to do, but I will put an asterisk, which means that it depends on the person and their conditions. But don't worry, I'm going to give you different options. Grippers. These are the bane of my existence. These little guys, they are horrible. They promise like individual finger gains, incredible things, and maybe, I don't know, but they're not worth, in my opinion, the forearm pump. And I don't know, they just feel very cheap and they break a lot. I've used them. Depending on the gripper, it makes a ton of noise when you're pressing it. It just creaks. And I don't know, the handles sometimes are not very ergonomic, so they end up just bothering more than they help. And I've never felt like a huge improvement. Maybe if you're doing lead or something like that, you just wanna, I don't know, get that arcing, maybe. But for us, most of the people that watch my videos, I think are boulders. I don't see it. So I'm gonna put it here in the F tier, and I actually have another picture, which I'm gonna put up on the screen probably, which is just the whole kit, because it shows you like 6 different things that are all horrible. So it's pretty nice to know that you can just show one picture and know, don't buy any of these. It's much easier. And the next, which is basically the anti-gripper, is the finger extensor thing. I bought it and it's horrible. It just breaks all the time. I think it's a good idea, potentially. It's just that the execution is very bad. It usually breaks in between the fingers, and once you stretch it, it just becomes 10 times like lighter than the first time you did it. So you think you're getting stronger, but you're not. And I do think it's pretty nice to think like balancing the hand out. If you're always doing like this movement, now you have to do like this. Same with the fingers, makes sense. But you can do it with resistance bands. You just cup the band over here, and then you just do like this. And you can even do it with your hands. Look, it's magical, and they're free. They're right here. So yeah, I'm not a fan. F tier for sure. Plus, let me add one thing to the grippers, and the same thing with this. If you're really looking to train strength, you need to be able to quantify that load, to be able to track it. So just doing like this 10,000 times is not going to give you strength. It might give you endurance, but most people, at least as I said, boulders, looking for strength. So doing like this 10,000 times and then tiring out and not sure, and doing this hand, and then did I do 50 on this hand or did I not? And it's just not very good. One of the best things about training is being able to see the numbers go up and know consistently that you're improving in those areas. So yeah, complete F for me. Okay, now a good one. One of my favorite things, even though I think it is underrated in the climbing community, and that is the dumbbell. I actually have one right here. So you got this, and then you just put a weight on. Most people just want to curl biceps, but we don't want to do that. We're climbers. So what you can do is you can do wrist stabilizing things. You can also curl if you want, and you can do extensors, you can do flexors, you can do almost anything. I'm going to be putting links in the description for any of these items I think are worth buying, but watch the video until the end so that you see the complete ranking and don't spend your money on things that are B tier just because they are barely in the cut. I mean, if you want it, you can buy them. And just know that these links are affiliate links. So if you buy something from here, I get a small kickback, which will start to help the channel. Now, I think the 3 main benefits for dumbbells are they are very cheap. Those weights are gonna last forever. The second part is those weights can also be used for other training. So if you're doing like hangboarding or fingerboarding with like a pickup, which we're gonna talk about afterwards, you can use those weights. So you're basically already buying them. The only thing you need is just the metal cylinder to make it into a dumbbell, and you're set. You have like 25 different moves you can practice and get stronger at instead of just one. And the third one is they are very versatile. As I said before, you can do shoulder training, you can do forearm training, you could even tie them up to your feet and do something related to legs. I don't know anyone that does legs in the climbing community, but maybe. Dumbbells, in my opinion, is a solid A, as in most people are gonna find benefit. Now, we're talking about this gyro guy. I don't even know it, but gyro power. I don't know if you've seen it before, but it's like a little ball. You just do like this and it starts making a noise. It starts spinning and you feel like some resistance against your arm, and it's supposed to make your wrist stronger and just get a forearm pump or stuff like that. Personally, I tried it. I didn't like it too much. I think it's a scam. Like you can buy it in Temu, same thing, for like $5, $10, something like that. But I think you'll see the recurring theme in the F rank. It's just things that promise more than they can give, and it actually takes away from your climbing. So it's like training strength, but it's not really training strength, and it ends up training like really weak endurance, and it's just boring, and yeah, I don't like it. So gyro, F. Now we are getting into one that has a lot of history. The campus board, invented by our friend Wolfgang Gulich, a very strong man. There's like two very distinct groups of people when it comes to campus boards: the lovers and the haters. There's a clip of Sean Bailey saying that he's not a fan, and I mean, I understand where he comes from, and I also understand people that say they're getting very strong by doing it, like Yves, and he's like super strong. So you can see both sides. I do think when you're talking about training equipment, you have to be very specific about what you're talking about. Is it improving your climbing, or is it just getting stronger? I think most people just want to climb better, but they end up straying a little bit and think only about getting stronger. If you wanna practice, or you have a project, maybe you're doing something, I know, V16, floating, right? You need a very specific set of skills. You need to be able to start off to really small crimps, campus, dead point, stop on a horrible crimp, and then keep on moving. It makes sense. You use the campus board. You practice on really small edges, doing very far away moves in a straight line, because you're basically copying, replicating the boulder. So it makes sense. I personally don't use it in my normal training. If I had a project that had that in specific, and let's say it's an outdoor project, so I can't be there every day, I do think this is great training, but personally, I would just climb more. I do think it's a solid A. It's a very good thing, but very specific. So like most people are not hitting what they want exactly, in my opinion. And I'm gonna put it behind dumbbells, because I just think dumbbells hit most things that climbing can't hit directly, and it can help you a lot. And now we have arrived at one of the most debated climbing tools of all, system boards. Love them or hate them, they're here to stay. You have probably the three most famous ones: moonboard, kilter board, and tension board. Personally, I've only climbed on a kilter board, but if you ever climb on a kilter board, you get hate from everyone that climbs on moonboard. I do think that these are really good at training, especially for outdoor. You learn how to move on small crimps, you learn how to climb on very steep angles, on a very 2D surface, because for example, B-Pump Akihabara is very 3D. Like you have a wall and there might be another one at the side, and you get to do like these weird moves, but sometimes when you go outside to rock, it's not that style. By climbing on one sheet, you get to practice a lot more that type of angle, that type of move. And I think it translates really well into rock, like outside. Most people, when I started climbing, would only use bouldering for lead, and lately it feels that most people train indoor bouldering for outdoor projects. I'm not that case, and I actually like indoor bouldering even more, but I think it's a really good tool. The only thing is not to get stuck in just climbing that, because I think you're missing out a ton of stuff to do. So I think it's much more interesting. You get more 3D climbs, you get a lot more moves. I'm not just saying like jumping, doing coordination stuff. I mean like slopers. Where is a sloper on one of these system boards? There's not many. You have some pinches, kind of slopey. You don't have big fat slopers. And I mean, they're pretty fun. You learn a lot. So we're gonna put them at S, but with an asterisk. It depends on the person and what you're doing. If you're just talking about getting strength for climbing for outdoors, it's amazing. If you're talking about learning for slopers, for example, or slaps, yeah, it's not that great. Which is why it's really cool if you can do it like once a week or once every 2 weeks. I do it like once a month just because it's fun. Now the next one is a very OG training tool. It is the wrist roller. It's something used for power endurance training, and you are going to feel it very fast. The burn you feel on your forearms with this is incredible. If you want to get a pump and you are trying to train for lead and practicing that mental state where you can keep on climbing even though you are completely gassed out, this is a very good cheap tool to do so. I do think it is like the pull-up bar for, I don't know, endurance training. Basically, it is not the best, it would be much better to just be climbing all the time, but it is something that translates. And if you can find a fat grip instead of a thin one, it is much better because you're gonna tire out much faster and your hand is gonna have to train to be open, which most people get tired very fast on slopers. So that's gonna be good too. We're gonna put it in the B tier under the pull-up bars because I don't think it's that good in comparison. The TRX rings. Most pros outside of Japan do it. Training core, training torsion, basically, you can use it for a ton of stuff. You can train it for legs. If you set it higher up, you can basically combine it with rings and you can use it for stability. I think it's a good training overall because stability is something that's very hard to train. And basically by getting positions where you shake, that is where you get a lot of stability training. I haven't used it much in my life. I think it's good, but it's not incredible. And I looked up the price and they're more expensive than I thought. But if you're interested, you can buy them. I'm gonna be putting links down below for anything I think is worth buying. But this one, yeah, it just barely makes the cut because I would rather personally be training more just on the wall instead of putting my effort into this. Basically above the pull-up bar, just because it trains something that you don't train exactly all the time on climbing, and your core can probably, everyone's core can get stronger. Pick up fingerboards. They are basically the same thing as hangboards, but they have a few caveats. They lower the barrier to entry. You don't need to hang anything up. And the only downside, in my opinion, is having to get more weight. But as we talked before, if you get the dumbbells or something like that, you already have some weight lying around, and weight just in general, buying weights is not very expensive and they last forever, basically. So I really like them. I think one of the best things that you can get out of pickup boards is that you can really standardize your training and you can standardize your warm-up. Because for example, at B-Pump Ogikubo, there is no hangboard. So I can't warm up over there in my fingers. I have to start from zero climbing, and I've already learned over years to warm up my fingers with a specific device, which is the hangboard. Lately, I've been using a pickup board and it really changed my warm-ups. It really helped me out. I feel much more confident knowing that it doesn't matter where I go, even if it's rock climbing outside, even if I'm on a trip and I don't know where I can train or stuff like that, I can just stick one of these in my backpack and just hang it against on a tree or something, and you can always train. Basically the same level as hangboards, but if you get used to the caveats and stuff like that, I think it's better. It just makes it easier and you can take it anywhere and it's yours. Instead of having to change gym and it has a different shape or the holds are different sizes or stuff like that, it just, you know your stuff and it's always there. And I'm just a fan of repeating stuff and having my own routine that I can do all the time so I feel tip-top shape and I know I can get the job done. So I'm gonna put it in front of the hangboard. This is probably the most recommended training tool by all professional climbers, and that is the spray wall. Adam Ondra loves it, Tomoa Narasaki loves it, and they're all beasts. I mean, I can imagine it. It's like the system boards. The difference is you also have slopers, you also have huge pinches. So it makes things way more interesting. The only thing is here, you are limited. You are a lot more limited by what you can set or the people around you can set. One of the good things about Moonboard, Kilterboard, Tension Board is that you have a database of millions of climbs. So you don't have to be setting them all the time. But on the spray wall, you have to be making your own stuff or the people around you have to. It's an S with an asterisk. As long as you can set super cool stuff, as long as you're strong enough to do it, because I don't think everyone is. If you are in a gym where there is a lot of people that sets up really nice boulders, it's really good. But if you're a bad setter and you always set the same style and your friends always set the same style, yeah, you're not gonna get much out of it, I think. So same thing, S with an asterisk, and I'm actually gonna put it behind the system boards just because most people, and probably 99.9% of people watching this video, are not to the level, including myself, to make incredible boulders all the time and just keep the level so high up that you can improve constantly. I think you can get more out of system boards. And the actual number one S tier, the best of the best, is just climbing in very different locations. if you get a gym with good setting like B Pump, I think that's just better than everything else. Because as long as you have the mindset to improve, you're gonna be training crimps, you're gonna be training slabs, slopers, you're gonna learn how to move 2D, 3D. There even is a spray wall at B Pump, so you get a spray wall practice. Almost everything you want is there, and everything that isn't there, you can buy it cheaply because it's on the A tier basically. So this was my training equipment tier list. What do you think? Do you think I am missing something?